Hello, everybody. So, today we're going to talk about productivity and time management. This is my little Christmas present for you. And we will talk about the qualities that make you who you are in terms of your productivity and some tools which you could apply to see how you can work with this better. How can you become more productive and use your time more like in a smarter way? So, let's go for it. The first step on this way is to learn about yourself, learn about some of the general traits that are typical for all human beings, and some of the things which might be specific for you. Um, the first subject I would like to touch is the modality preference. This means that all of us operate from different modalities. It could be visual, auditory, or kinesthetic, and this might define how you perceive the world, what kind of information input is better for you, and therefore how you can actually study or how can you memorize the materials. So we will go through all of them one by one, and I would like to start with the visual one. So visual people like or adore colors. They like visuals. All the charts they ask their teachers to write on the blackboards. They like making presentations. They perceive this world through looking at it. So sometimes you might say that the way they describe the world would be that they would say, "Oh, you see, have you seen that she came late, for instance?" Or they would use words like this, so you can spot them through their language. Also, there might be some IQs. So these people, as we talk, they look up a lot. They look up to the left, as you might remember from one of our classes. It means that they are extracting some visual information from the past. So more likely they won't be constructing the information they're thinking about, but rather looking up for it in their memory. Sometimes both left and right if they're imagining some visual image of what you've just said. Yes, they are very likely to stare straight ahead as if they were daydreaming, but actually they are perceiving. Let's move forward. So the next one is the audio. Um, these people are perceiving the world through listening. You might notice that when they talk to you or when you talk to them, they might turn with one of their ears, the dominating ear, and try to perceive your information, the information you are telling better. They are very likely to misread the words, and they are very well at remembering the things that they heard rather than they've seen or experienced. Um, yes, their eye movements are most likely side to side, so they are looking from one ear to another ear, trying to find the information. So they might imagine how it would sound, or something you are saying would sound. What would be the sound surrounding of of the actions you're describing? Yes, and if they're extracting information, of course, they are looking to the left. And this is it about the audio. And the next one is kinesthetic. This one is the one who uses the gestures. They are more likely to learn through actions, through trying things out. They want more examples. Maybe these are people who give you metaphors for their experiences or try to perceive your experience through metaphors. They move their eyes to the bottom left when they are trying to feel how something that you're saying would match their experience. And also, they are very good with responding to touch and physical rewards. So, for these people, maybe a hug would sometimes be more rewarding than financial gain. I'm joking, of course, but generally, yes. And these three types are the basic ones. And the thing to remember here is that they are never or almost never clean types. So usually it's some combination. Um, the majority of people are somewhere between visual and audio, somewhat less kinesthetic people. Yeah, this means that teachers or presenters, they might want to make bigger stress, bigger emphasis on the visual information, or creating a beautiful presentation, or trying to write some charts in the article, in the scientific article, so that visual people can perceive it. Perhaps this is a result of the widespread visual information that we are receiving through our messengers, through our Instagrams or YouTubes, so on and so forth. So visual part has become an important um, perception resource for us. And I would like to introduce one more type. This is a rather unconventional one. So it doesn't belong to the traditional structure of modalities, but somehow it also has its place. So this kind of people are outside of the senses. They don't really perceive the world through visual, audio, or kinesthetic stimuli, but they perceive it through logics, or some structures, or some algorithms. Um, they talk internally a lot, and yeah, they use their logic, and they are likely to look with their eyes into the bottom right corner, and they are rather reserved. This type can also be combined with other types. So perhaps in some situations, person is more manifesting themselves as a digital type, and in other, more as visual or audio. Yes. So this is it about it, and I encourage you to maybe stop this video and reflect a little on what kind of type are you. Think about your language. You can also apply this to your friends and try to figure out, are they um, using the words, which words are they using, which of the types do those identify. Yes, and you can of course find multiple tests on the internet which might help you finding out what is your modality preference. This information is highly useful for you to apply in the studies. So if the class, for instance, is not clear for you, or you're not so much satisfied with the information, it's really hard to remember it. Try to pay attention to the fact that maybe the teacher is giving you information of a different modality, which is not overlapping with your modality preference, and maybe you would like to ask for some more, for instance, visual information, or maybe you would like to, yeah, maybe you would like to get some more kinesthetic information through experience and trying out the things that you learn. Exactly. So I hope this would be helpful. And we are moving to the next step, our next part of our self-exploration. And this is your brain. So surprisingly, uh, the brain has two hemispheres. Yes, and those two, as you can see from these pictures, are responsible for different kinds of operations, or different kinds of um, tasks that you might be already familiar with, but I'll guide you through those. And each person is operating from one of those hemispheres more. Um, some of us are operating from both, or yeah, generally, of course, the brain works like the both hemispheres of the brain work together, but somehow one of them can be dominant. Yeah, so let's go and see what are the things that both hemispheres do. Sorry. So the left side of the brain is responsible for our speaking, reading, writing, listening, grammar, number skills, computation skills, analyzing, reasoning, logic, sequential thinking, time awareness, and this is the part which controls our right side of the body, our right eye, our right ear, right hand, etc. So as you can see, this part of the brain is more related to structural information, to logical information. This is what burns when you do math or try to calculate how much change you have to get from the waiter. Uh, yes, and when you're also talking or when you're speaking the foreign language like English for me now, perhaps my left side of the brain is burning or is really activating. Yes, and as for the right side, this one is responsible for organizing information, abstract meaning, reading of the abstract meaning, trying to understand the context, spatial relationship. For instance, like when you're reading the map, you are using your right hemisphere. All the visual information, face recognition or facial gnosis, it's called, intuition, detecting motion, music, art awareness, of perceiving the music and other sorts of arts. And this side of the brain is controlling the left part of the body. Um, and therefore, you can see that these two parts have their unique, unique functions and unique meaning for our lives. Um, the important thing you can do about it is not just your awareness of this, but you can also find some interesting tools to develop your interlateral relation. So, for instance, during I don't know, for instance, brushing your teeth with the left hand might somehow give you a lot of development into your right hemisphere, and so on and so forth. So there are like doing any kind of unconventional things with different hands are usually helpful for developing each of the either of the sides. Also, some movements with your fingers and lots of whole lot of exercises that you can do. Yeah. So please, if you're interested, look it up on internet. How can I develop my interlateral connection, and then you will definitely bring up your cognitive abilities or abstract thinking, for instance, on the to the newest level. Let's move on. And now, as you have learned something about your body, um, you would like to also learn about the productivity style that you have. And according to a book called Working Simply, there are four types of productivity which I'm gonna introduce to you. You can also uh, pause this video to use some links from the description to define yours. And when you use them, they will send you this beautiful description of your productivity style. And then it will be easier for you to follow this, knowing that, oh, this one is me, and you wouldn't have to guess. Yeah, so this belongs to, this information comes from the book called Working Simply. And I think this is a very useful tool to understand what is working for you and what is not. Yes. So let's move on. Um, so first two productivity styles, they're from the category of organized styles or very structured styles. So the ones you would like to, yes, you would like to do all the financial things or all the analytical things. Okay. So the first one is called prioritizer. This one is logical, analytic, fact-based thinker, and this is the person who totally loves to do the critical analysis, to question things, to see their essence, and they like robust information and fact-based debate. So some daydreaming might not be the place here. Um, they prefer to spend their time wisely and effectively. So they would use some tools to define what are their priorities and what is really worth their attention at the moment. So their strengths, therefore, is prioritization. They analyze problems to logically solve them. They are achievement oriented, so they want to achieve their goals, want to be consistent and decisive, and therefore maybe they would not be so doubtful because they know what are the specific aims they're targeting. Okay, so the second type is called planner. This is a very organized, sequential, and planned, detailed thinker. Yeah, so this person likes to schedule things and write out the action plan So if, for instance, they have goals, they would write ABC of what they have to do. They are very strict regarding the time, so they like to keep appointments, arrive on time. They don't like, you know, mulling around the topic. They would like to go straight to the point. They would ask you, "Okay, but what do you mean? What do you want to say by that?" And let's go down to the point. Okay, I understood that this is so great and la la la. Just tell me what do you mean. Yeah, so their strengths is that they are oriented on action. They are very practical, consistent. They are easily finding some flaws in the plans or processes, so they can also somehow critically analyze the idea to find the flaws. They're easily organizing and maintaining data, so they can create structure out of anything, and they can create a detailed process and plan. So if you're this kind of person, perhaps you have had a, I don't know, like a plan of your studies with all the dates set, and you're likely to keep the deadlines or send the assignments in advance. So this might be you. The next one is called arranger. So now we are coming to a little different um, pair of types. And the arranger is very supportive, expressive. They are thinking emotionally, and this is contrary to the previous ones. So they don't operate from their rational side, from their left brain. They're more emotional, maybe a little more kinesthetic also. So they're very interactive in conversations. They are very initiative in their approach. They um, pay a lot of attention to their feelings, their emotion. They're likely to acknowledge others and appreciate their contributions. Say that, oh, this was such a great talk. Thank you. Yes. So they also um, love to have an opportunity to discuss some questions and concerns and talk about their feelings and la la la, talk about this with their friends and everybody. Their strengths are anticipating how others will feel or understanding their underlying emotions. We psychologists call it empathy. So this is a very nice trait of trying to feel in with others. They're intuitive, persuasive, and they're very, very, very great in teaching. So they can easily explain you something or involve you emotionally into something. Okay, so next type is called visualizer. These guys are holistic, very intuitive, unlike the rational ones on the previous slide. Um, they are synthesizing and integrating information. So they try to spend minimal time on details, and they are using broad conceptual frameworks. So they would think of um, categories and bigger concept, not like the small things of how we can do it, but why are we doing this? What is our vision? Um, yeah, and they're very open-minded. They can see the bigger picture, so do something like helicopter view on their, I don't know, on the business or on their life or on the life of their friends. Yeah, so they try to integrate all the concepts and ideas that they learn into what they do. They're very innovative, and they're willing to, change the status quo, so change the current state of things uh, to make the world a better place. And they're pretty creative in their problem solving. So somehow these four types are unique, and each of them has their own direction. And you could imagine that all four are very important, and that all of them are, if you could imagine an organization, all four would be very helpful in keeping it going. At the same time, somehow very few people can combine all four in themselves because they contradict each other. And this means that sometimes people, mostly people are um, having like one or two preferences out of this. So they belong to one or two types of this. And if you have already stopped the video to take the test, you might know that you're one of those or two of those. So there would usually be a dominating style. So, for instance, if you're a prioritizer and you're very analytical, and then maybe you're also a arranger, I don't know. So you are maybe an HR director where you can empathize with people, but at the same time keep the structure and set goals for others. So this might interact in very beautiful ways and very different combinations actually. So it is very nice to know what you are, and if you go down to read the book itself or watch the videos on the internet, you will also learn there are many time management tools and many different advice up to like how to choose the notebooks for yourself. Yes, that might help you. So I will just give my little silly example. I never really liked those lined books for like right lined notebooks or yeah, I felt really uncomfortable with writing in those, and somehow it's not really convenient for drawing or for anything. And I was always feeling that if there were no lines, that would be like so much better for myself. And I'm myself an arranger, and if I don't remember wrong, it says that like for us, it's better that the notebooks are blank and that we can express ourselves in any place we want. So after that, I felt like, oh, this is so good. Now I know it. This is a really tiny thing, but this tiny step actually motivated me to um, start writing some diaries on my personal development with no confusion because of the lines on the paper. Huh. Okay, so I hope you will have your little insights, and actually this 1 or 2% contribution is already more than you had before. So don't hesitate to take this step and learn about yourself. All right. So and I also added this video which you can check. So the author is Caro Dweck, of the author of the book, and she has made the video talking about um, believing how you can improve, and you can watch it. It's a TED talk, so it's always engaging. Yeah, and I encourage you to look for more materials about about the subject, and I hope that it will bring you to a new level. Maybe some of you would want to share this with friends and talk about this and combine your or compare your styles so that you see if it actually works. So yeah, go for it and test it if it actually works in the real world. All right. So next thing I wanted to say, talk about is are the biorhythms. So we are going back to our biology, and there are several. There is this funny classification, which says there are three types of people. One of them are owls, one of them are larks, and the hummingbirds. So you can try to guess which one is which. So biorhythms are the rhythms of our life, which depend on the time where we go to bed, where we wake up, and when we are the most active, when we feel a lot of energy, and when we don't. Yeah, and in case of owls, these are the people who work better at night. So they wake up late, and maybe they would work till 1 a.m. or 2 a.m., maybe 12, um, so that they can be very productive. They are very creative at that time. But in the morning, you wouldn't get them out of the bed ever, ever. And also, the next type are the larks. So these are the ones who are waking up in the morning. And actually, this one is getting more and more popular. Somehow, there is even a subculture of people who try to wake up earlier to fulfill their tasks till 2 p.m. In the daytime so that they can be productive later. Yes, and the other type is called hummingbirds. These ones are people with no actual preference for the time when they wake up. And you can also say that the majority of children and elderly people, are the larks because they wake up at 6 a.m. I don't know if you could remember, but I can totally remember myself waking up at 6 a.m. to watch the cartoons while everybody was sleeping. My grandparents would wake up right after me, so we were the lark family. Yes, and yeah, the adults and maybe you and I are more like owls, but it might be that you have some sort of preference or you have trained yourself to wake up early and then you might still be a lark. This is an interesting perspective, so you can also take a look at this and maybe you already have some sayings about this in your culture, and most likely this would be a familiar system for you. Okay, let's move to another uh, paradigm in biorhythms understanding. So there is a model called Circadian Rhythm, and this is something like biorhythms is a um, like a superior category. So this rhythm defines the activity of your body or even your inner organs depending on the daylight. So there would be different um, different hormonal changes throughout the day according to the position of the light. And this is actually the reason why people have jet lag. So when people fly away to another country, for instance, they fly from Budapest to Los Angeles, and they might find themselves not being able to fall asleep right away and having lots of very weird sensations because the sun doesn't rise when it's supposed to rise. So this dramatic change might really bring a huge jet lag. Yes, and therefore we can see that in around 6 a.m. to something there is a huge melatonin release, and then you would want to start your day somewhere here before 12, hopefully. Yes, if you're an owl, please. You can wake up at 12. Then this is the time when you're highly alert before 12 in the noon, so maybe you would be very good at I don't know, reading articles or trying to study because you're very much focusing on things. Then lunchtime. Then you're very good at coordination. Maybe this is the time to do some yoga or dance class or I don't know, karate, whatever you do. Yeah, your reaction time is good in the evening, and by 6 p.m. you would want to limit the caffeine input, so stop drinking coffee. Yes, and after 6 p.m., you will want to slowly reduce using the electronic device and dimming light to bring yourself into this evening mode. And yeah, there is also a melatonin release, and then yeah, this is the time when you go to bed. Maybe by this time you have to go to bed to go through all the stages of a good night's sleep. And also, you can see that by 12 or a little earlier, you have to stimulate the secretion of serotonin. So, serotonin is our happiness hormone, the one which, yeah, makes you cheerful about the day. So, about this time, so this is the lunchtime, is the time you would want to use some products or eat something which actually increases your serotonin level. Um, I think I will give you some advice in the comments. So this might be some fish or meat or nuts, maybe tofu or chia, something like that. So you might want to eat some of those in the lunchtime so that you feel more happy.